Here we go. What's up, business nerds? Happy Wednesday night, as always. Welcome to Home Service Happy Hour. We got Holly Hoffman, the sales tax lady, in the house. This is just going to be a total nerd fest, is what it is. So get whatever ice cold beverage you need to saturate yourself, and be prepared to talk nerdy accounting and tax stuff. How you doing tonight, Holly?
I'm good. It's been a good week.
Good, like busy good, or good like like no emergencies week? Or like good can mean so many things. What kind of good?
I say satisfying, good. So helping people good.
Yeah.
There's always seems to be emergencies. So, but that's satisfying to me. So anytime you can help people, that's good.
Yeah, like a fire to a normal person is bad, but to a firefighter that gets to go like solve problems for people, that's still a good day.
But I feel like with sales tax, and I know we'll probably get into this, but I feel like with sales tax, other people think it's a fire. And then I come along and they're like, oh, I guess that's not really a fire.
Yeah. You can bring a calm to the moment.
So that's why I feel like it's satisfying. So,
well, if my buddy, who we have already talked about a little bit in the past, I sent him a note and I was like, hey man, we're jumping on tonight. If he jumps on, I think you'll be able to do that for him, live while we're on here, because I think he needs that.
yeah.
We were talking about kiddos earlier. What's your spread? What's the ages? What's your behavior set of kids? Because I'm still waiting. I told you my wife is out of town. I got the 3, and normally one of them shows up in here, and I got the baby gate as like my alarm system. I think I'll hear that go, and they can navigate it. None of them are babies anymore, but now it just functions as like a bit of a trap that I'll know if they're navigating it to try to get to my side of the hallway. Are you in that phase, or are your kids beyond needing to be trapped in a segment of the house where they can only break so much stuff?
Now they're just breaking my wallet.
So
yeah,
what happened?
My oldest is about to be 30. She'll be 30 next month. She's married, lives in Atlanta.
You look like you're in your late 30s. So how do you have a kid that's 30?
I know. See, I shouldn't tell my kids' ages because then people won't know my age. Yeah, it just happens. I wasn't super young. I mean, I was 22 when I had her.
Yeah.
So, and then my next youngest 2 are 18 and 17. So my youngest is graduating high school this spring.
Nice.
And she'll be in the Culinary Institute of America for baking and pastry. And
is that good or bad for you? Are there just always sweets around your house then that you're like, man, I'm trying to like watch what I'm eating, but here's this good looking dessert over here?
Well, I'm older, so that stuff doesn't always agree with me. So maybe that's why I look younger.
There you go.
Because I can't eat everything that I used to eat before.
Yeah.
My husband's a really good cook, but that's another story. And then my middle daughter is at Michigan Tech for data science. She's a freshman. So
just doing nerdy stuff.
Yeah.
Are you excited to be an empty nester, or are you like, what are we going to do when we don't have like a kid running around the house to yell at? What's your mindset?
My husband and I, my oldest daughter's from a prior marriage. So my husband and I have never known each other without children.
Yeah.
So we are very excited to start this new chapter in our life. I mean, we're sad to not have our kids around because they're such a big part of our life, but we're very excited to travel and visit our kids. And then I have my business, which is a huge part of our life. So
yeah. Interesting times. And where's the culinary school? Like, where is your youngest one off to? Is it in Wisconsin, or is it?
That's New York, north of New York City.
Okay.
So in the Hudson Valley. So very beautiful. So I'll have Atlanta, Georgia, New York, and then the UP.
Michigan. The UP. the spread. You have like the spread of kids and the full geographical spread. You need to adopt a kid and send them out west, and then you should be all set.
So, yeah, no, it's exciting. And
Cool.
hopefully maybe, we'll have grandkids sometime.
That's when you graduate. You graduate to being a grandparent.
Yeah, that'll be exciting.
That's just not even, we got 9, 7, and 3. And it's so, I am realizing my 9-year-old is starting to act older. And I'm like she's not acting like a little kid anymore. She's trying to be mature and different. And I'm like, quit being weird. Stop doing that. Just play with toys and like quit having these opinions about stuff. You're supposed to throw tantrums, not have educated opinions and want to discuss them. What's that all about? So I'm like realizing that, and then realizing, oh man, she's 9. Like she's halfway through our time with her. Like, and
no, don't think about it like that.
That's how like it's just striking me. And so I'm thinking about it a lot of different ways, but that's like, oh man, time, it just goes and you got to make the most of it. So it makes you think about parenting and like doing fun stuff with your kids way more intentionally, because they're just not kids forever. Like I can like watch it in her, and the 7 and 3-year-old make it very apparent that the 9-year-old is quite different, because the 7 and 3-year-olds still act like total crazy kids. But
you know what I thought the funnest time was? When each of my kids, you're going to think I'm a horrible parent, but the first time they used a swear word correctly.
my 9-year-old used one tonight, and I didn't even bring it up. My 7-year-old mocks when we like parent her. She's like, okay, I'll do that. And she like mocks it. And my 9-year-old goes, Reggie, quit being a smart ass. She's like, Dad doesn't like it when you be a smart ass. And I was like, I'm just not even going to bother correcting her, because it was what I was thinking. And, she used it correctly. She knows not to swear at school, but that she's right. She's right. You're being a smart ass. I don't know what else to tell you. So.
But when it slips out and then it's accurate. One time my husband walked out in the garage and he scared my middle daughter, and she was just, I don't know, she was like 3 or 4. And she goes, you scared the F out of me. And he almost fell over.
Yeah. It's like you can't even take it seriously.
He just was not expecting her to say that. And it was just like, you're like, but it was correct.
Yeah. It's like the times you wish you just like had a camera on you all the time to like capture that moment. You just like, those are priceless.
Yeah.
We have one of my favorite people on the planet checking in, Teresa McConnell checking in from Florida. She's at a business event. We got some guy that thinks he's a comedian saying, hey, say hi to my brother, Huge Ass. So there you go, Cody. You got it. You got your happy birthday to your brother. He watches all of our streams. Huge Ass does.
Nice.
That guy should probably work out if he's in that kind of condition, but up to Hugh, whatever he wants to do. Holly, I want to hear a little bit more about your background, because you're I don't want to put this on you, but this is the thing I find that's weird about me, which is people meet me and they're like, you do accounting? Like, you don't do accounting, man. I know accountants when I see accountants, and I know you don't do accounting. And I'm like, no, I'm super nerdy. Like, I do bookkeeping, and we have a CPA or a tax person too. I'm not the one doing it all, but I'll get in there and do some nerdy stuff. Like, I love me some numbers and some math. And it always blows people's minds when they meet me and I'm just the weirdo that I am. I'm sitting here drinking beer. I don't remember if I told you this. Like, when I go present on stage, I crack a beer. It's 8 a.m. and I'm like, hey, bookkeeping doesn't have to be boring. And I'm from Wisconsin, so legally we can drink any time of day. It's okay. And it's a Busch Light. It's sex in a canoe. It's effing near water is what we say. But when I was talking to you a couple weeks ago, you're like, oh yeah, I was bartending and doing this. And I was like, I understand you are an accounting person from Wisconsin, like me. We're maybe cut a little bit differently. So give us a little background down memory lane. Like, how the heck did you get into, obviously you did some bartending and whatever else you did. How'd you get into the nerdy accounting space, and how did that transition into being the sales tax expert?
Well, I did not plan to go into accounting. So that was that was not
Accounting just
my
came
dream.
for you.
So I didn't get into accounting until I was in my 20s, mid 20s. And I did bartend most of my life because it's good money and I have the personality for it and it was fun. So yeah, I have more of a personality of a bartender, not an accountant.
It
But when
probably
I,
helps you deliver, like that ability to have those conversations makes delivering good or bad tax news probably more palatable to a business owner, I'd reckon.
yeah. And actually, when I was in high school, I wanted to go into teaching. I wanted to teach a foreign language. And then I also was interested into something with research. So I guess I'm in kind of the field that I am meant to be because I do a lot of training, and that is my skill set, training.
And accounting is a foreign language to small business owners.
It
Anything
really is because
accounting
a
is
lot of what I do is bridging the gap, not only between sales tax law language and business owners, but then also I'm bridging the gap between my business owner clients and DOR, Department of Revenue,
mm-hmm.
because they have their policies and their language. Any government has their, you know, their acronyms and all their,
Mm-hmm.
they just have their own language. So even when, so I'm big into WICPA, that's the Wisconsin Association for CPAs, and I chair the tax committee. But even my colleagues who are CPAs, they don't understand DOR tax speak or how DOR does stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to bridge the gap between them and DOR. So
You're like the Google translator before Google had a translator. And even then, like, you can search the sales tax stuff and it just doesn't spit it out in a way you can understand it anyway.
yeah. So even if you read things on DOR website, unless you know what DOR thinks, you don't really know what they're going to do in audit, which is why it's valuable to know someone like me, to have me tell you plain language, and this is what's going to happen. So
I found today, this wasn't sales tax related, but government tax world. I have a new employee in Iowa and I have a new employee in Arizona. And so I need to go in and set up withholding accounts for them and unemployment accounts, and even just the different states and how that setup process goes and the language they use and what they mean by this role and that role. And it's like, what? Like, I'm I'm I do accounting for a living, and I'm baffled half the time, like trying to set somebody up and like, when am I going to get? Do I get a number? Am I doing something right? Am I going to get like a nasty letter in the mail? Did I complete the process? Because I hit a submit button, but now I don't really know what to do, and I'm just like, wait until I get a letter that says I did something wrong, and it always cracks me up because I do accounting, like this is what I went to school for, and as I run a business doing it. And then whether it's setting employees up, whether it's like doing income taxes, I'm like, oh hell no, I'm not the right person to be doing that. Like it's that tax, that language is a totally different language. It's like, what does the normal person do that doesn't speak accounting at all? Like it's a dialect of a different language as you get into different like sub tax related things. It's wild.
Yep.
So when did you transition from bartender to like sales tax expert? And you said that wasn't like your dream was not to be the sales tax expert necessarily, but what was that like career trajectory like that ended up getting you into Wisconsin Department of Revenue and you becoming the expert that you are?
Yeah. Well, I had my daughter. I got married and had my daughter, and I was bartending, and that really wasn't conducive for being a single parent. And so one of my patrons said, hey, I was doing accounts payable on the side for the restaurant I worked for. And I ended up, they liked me in that role. So I was doing it for the whole chain and I was good at it. And he was like, I know you need a day job. You should really look into doing accounting because it pays more than a regular office job. And when I looked into it, yeah, office jobs at the time paid $10 an hour. Accounting jobs paid 12 and a quarter starting. And I'm like, well, it just makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and tested. Robert Half was the placement agency at the time in Milwaukee. And my skills were mad at the time, just crazy. I could do 10 key data entry like crazy, and typing was good.
Fast fingers.
Yeah, I took business classes in high school and stuff, shorthand and all that stuff, and typing because I'm old. But so I had mad skills. And so one of my first placements was a mechanical contracting company in Milwaukee. And I worked there for 3 years while I still bartended. I usually work 2 or 3 jobs at a time. And
classic Wisconsinite. a little bit of everything.
So, and actually, that client is, or that customer, or that business is one of my clients now. So it's full circle. Yeah. But anyway, so I did that. Accounting, like billing and accounts payable for a few different companies in Milwaukee at the time. I job hopped for pay increases. And then, which was really good experience for my background. And then
check a few boxes off.
Yeah. I ended up at UW Milwaukee, and my current husband and I got married, and we moved up to Portage County, and I thought I could just transfer up here. Well, I did get into UWSP, and I finished my bachelor's degree, got hired at Department of Revenue. And when I started at Department of Revenue, I did audit, which was really good. And I was really good at it because I was able to work at all those other companies and I had all this background. So I just dove in.
Yeah, I know what you're looking for.
Yeah, I knew. I was like just really quick. And then I excelled at that.
Let me take what you just said, because I want to point something out. When people think about accounting folks, and I observe this when I work with other accountants a lot, which is they are not quick. And you said it like it's just like, yeah, like I was just going and I'm fast. But I don't think people understand like how much of an anomaly that is in the accounting space. Because one of the things I observe really often is accountants being slow and doing accounting for the sake of accounting and not being efficient. So much so, and it grinds my gears so much. Efficiency is one of our core values. Like I always tell our team, I don't want to catch you doing accounting for the sake of accounting. Like we need to know what we're doing. We need to know how to get it done. And we need to do it for as many people to help them as possible. Like speed is really valuable. It doesn't seem like we're in a production role, but we are not an administrative function. We are a production function for our clients. Like we are getting them a result. So I admire that. Like that really always sticks out to me is when, especially in an audit role, and again, this is just like a weird nuance of it. We had an auditor and she was really struggling to produce the number of audits per day. And granted, like they're not all the same, but like she wasn't able to audit enough accounts in a day. And that is like the production metric that we had for her role is like, how many things can we get through in a day? Like we need to accomplish the audit and see what's up. And she ended up resigning, and we have a new one starting Friday because it became a productivity thing. And people don't think about that with accounting, but quickness is imperative.
You have to, and this is why people like me, because so usually business owners, because they don't have the experience of having worked in multiple places and done accounting at multiple places, or having the experience of audited different businesses. So they get stuck in the weeds And they're like, but I see all these numbers, I see all these things, and they're so stuck in all the details. So I come in and I help them look above it and say, now let's group these things. Can you see how you can group these things? And look at how they go together and how you can put them into a report and how this report does this and how you can look at this and look at it much more quickly. And when we do that, they're like, how do you do that? And I'm like, because this is my job.
Yeah.
Like, this is how auditors will look at it. And this is the information you need. So when I can show them that, but when you're in it, it's hard. So I don't blame the business owner, but when you're in it, you like, I don't get it. But when I come in, then I can show them and then we can streamline it. So that's why it's important for me to work with their staff and work with their people, because then I can show them how to do that.
Yeah, you can get the clarity, and then clarity creates productivity, efficiency, big time.
Yep. Because otherwise they're going to be stuck and never get past that. So I have to come in, show them, and then get that set up. But then they see, and then they can replicate that. They don't ever go backwards because they've now learned that.
Yep. My guy Anthony here said we were talking earlier about just how tax law is written in all the different languages of accounting. That's written in the gray areas, and now he says I need to look at my books. But it is like when we do bookkeeping for people, I think it's funny because the same rule applies. As they'll come to us and like they'll pull their P&L and it's 70 line items tall. Oh, I forgot. I just realized I never put us live on Instagram. I got to click the stupid button over there. Okay, now we're live on Instagram too, amongst all the others. Earlier today, I did a podcast. I have a radio show. I forgot to click the button. It was out there. We could have gone live on Instagram. I just never realized I never clicked the button. But when we do the bookkeeping for companies, we group everything, like every line item on a P&L. We put it in one of 5 groupings, just based on how you make decisions. And it's so funny when we do that, because even somebody that's like, I don't know what any of this means. I never even look at my P&L. I just look at my bank account and I know I'm making enough money. And then we put it in that and we actually color code it. It's like green if you beat the target. And we know what the target is for all the industries we work with. Green if you beat the target, yellow if you're close, red if you miss it by a bit. And pretty much anybody can look at 5 line items, red, yellow, green, and be like, oh, I can tell the one that's not working good. Like, now I know what I need to work on. And it's just so funny. It's like the data's out there, but like you mentioned, grouping it to create clarity and say, hey, I know there's like a whole bunch of moving parts here, but if we just make this simple, now we can actually address the means to go about correcting this thing, or what we even need to go correct in the first place.
Yep. I mean, one of the things, so like the one individual said that sales tax is so gray area, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people, they will come and hear me speak. And when I do my presentations, I have to talk general tax because I don't know who's all in my audience. But when I work with an individual business, we can do very specific tax treatment. So it's very concrete. Nothing is gray area for your specific business. Like, there's actual tax treatment. Like, it's not gray. Department of Revenue, if they come out and audit you, they're going to say this is taxable, this is not taxable. And they're going to tell you one way or the other. So, but then the problem is everyone in your business is making tax decisions. So, well, if it's just you and your business, that's fine. But if you're a contractor, let's say, and you have guys in the field, girls in the field, whatever, people in the field, and
humans, robots, whatever,
they're out there and they bill the customer on the spot. Some of the contractors I've worked with are like, oh, now, we have these great devices and they got tablets and now they have to make tax decisions. And I'm like, okay, not all is lost. Let's set up your accounting system so that they're not feeling like they're making tax decisions. So we set up their revenue codes and stuff that it doesn't seem like tax decisions. So it's not sales taxy. And then they very easily make the right decisions. We still train the guys and ladies in the field so that they are choosing the right service codes and things like that. But it's easy and they're selecting the right things. And now they're not saying this is taxable, this is not taxable. They're just selecting this is the right service that I'm doing, yes. And these are the items that go under it. Mm-hmm. So it works really well so that people aren't, there's a mental barrier when you have to make a tax decision. So you're trying to keep all the tax decisions in the accounting department.
Yep. And so many of those elements of it with the technology we have today and a lot of the CRMs that we work with our clients, they have a tax setting behind the scenes. And so every service that you set up and the address book that you set up, obviously different zip codes have different sales tax treatments too, but so many of them can have that stuff built in the background that if you put a zip code or whatever that mechanism is that the tax applies to, the zip code plus the service, however that reads, like it predetermines it. Like you said, there was a point in time, I'm around 7-8 years ago, and we had window cleaning, pressure washing, maid service businesses, some in Ohio, some in Missouri, some in Minnesota, other locations. In Minnesota especially, we have like around Minneapolis, if you do a job in Minneapolis, there's like 6 different sales taxes you need to collect between the state, the county, the different cities, the this little pocket of it for this other silly tax. And the person answering the phone and booking the job was in St. Louis or might have been in Cincinnati. It's like they don't even know the names of the counties that they're selling stuff in, much less that Minneapolis has a metro transit tax that needs to be in here. Like there was just no way for them to know. And so we built spreadsheets where they would just do like a lookup function of this zip code. And then that would at least spit out a tax rate. And they just would have to know, does it apply or does it not apply for that service? But the systems and the softwares that people are using now at least are able to do a lot of that stuff. Like you said, you can build it behind the scenes. So when the human is out in the field and saying, all right, we got this job and I just sold the neighbor and I got to create this thing and book it, they don't have to think about it. And so much building a business, running a business is like, how do you take out variables? And that's a sweet variable when you can take it out.
Yep.
Take us through interacting with the client on your end. Like if you're going to go in and work with, actually, no, let me back it up. Take us through, like how to make sure that we build the right system in the first place. We're kind of talking about it here, but like if you're going to advise a client to say, hey, you're just starting out, what are the things they should be doing right from the get-go? Like what are the pitfalls that you're trying to help them build into their process right from the get-go to avoid? And then next we're going to get into like now they're in a pitfall. Like what are those pitfalls and how do you work through them? But first, I guess let's talk through, how do you build the system right in the first place? If you're just getting going and just taking on jobs, what are the steps to make sure you get your sales tax stuff dialed in before it gets sideways?
Well, I would make sure that you're talking to a true tax professional who really understands sales and use tax. Because I've seen businesses who are not required to hold a seller's permit who get registered, and you don't want to hold a seller's permit when you're not required to, because it creates liabilities and eliminates certain exemptions, and you don't want to do that. So make sure that you talk to a tax professional and don't just automatically register. Holding a seller's permit doesn't give you a right to sell things. Seller's permits are for people who have sales tax liability. So that's a distinction. Okay. So a lot of people get that confused.
Got it.
And then your next thing is understanding what your taxable sales and services are. And then your other next step is, will you have a use tax liability? So sometimes contractors don't have a sales tax liability because they do all real property work,
Okay.
but they have a use tax liability. They are purchasing a lot of product materials from out of state that isn't taxed, and they need to remit use tax because it's installed in state.
Because they're not paying sales taxes when they buy the materials. Basically, they're like exempt at the purchase end and paid the tax.
Well, if they're purchasing from out of state, maybe the vendors aren't required to remit or collect tax in your state. And then that means the contractor installing it in this state, whatever state they're in, would have a use tax liability. And then they would want to register for a use tax permit only.
Would you pay a use? I don't think I've ever paid a use tax. Would you pay a use tax based on the value of the materials or the value that you charge your client?
No, the value of the materials you're purchasing. Use tax is and since you didn't pay sales tax on your purchase, you remit use tax.
Got it. Versus sales tax would be like you're basically passing it through to your end client versus you're assuming it as the person paying the taxes. You're passing it on and collecting it and then remitting it to the government as the
sales tax is when you are making a sale and your sale is subject to tax.
Taxable to the end client.
Yeah. But use tax can apply to if someone didn't properly charge you tax and you purchased taxable equipment or materials or software or digital goods, something online, anything consumed in the business. Use tax is the primary audit assessment. So a lot of people will tell me, oh, I don't need to hire you, or I don't have any issues because I have no taxable sales. And I always chuckle because audit assessment usually isn't a sales tax issue. It's usually a use tax issue. It's your purchases of fixed assets or other purchases in your business.
Interesting. I want to hit on this one. Anthony threw this out here, and I think this kind of goes back to the challenge I used to have in our old system because it wouldn't. I think it was called Avalara. I don't even know if they still exist anymore, but like we had that on like friggin' speed dial on our computer of like, oh, where's this job? Let me throw the address in and like see if we can spit out what the tax rate should be. We did have the luxury of all of our services, as far as we knew, were taxable, so they were on every single invoice, and so we just had to make sure we had the actual location right so we could charge the right tax. I could see it getting really tricky where it's like parts of your services are taxable and maybe parts aren't, or this one is and this one's not. And then, but if you're over here, maybe it is. Like it feels like it can get pretty gummy. And Anthony said in House Call Pro, which is the CRM he uses, he still always has to put the tax in manually. Like it won't recognize when the job is in this place that it needs to be this tax rate. So I feel for you on that one, Anthony. That's like, it gives you, as the salesperson in your business, like it gives you another thing to do every time you book a job to make sure that you're setting it up right with the client. Is that a thing that you see fairly often, Holly? Is that it is like a manual task, or do you have tips for people of ways to like expedite making sure they get the right tax rate for the service and location that they're dealing with?
I haven't worked with House Call Pro. Does it allow for downloading a file or anything for tax rates?
I know there's tax rates that you can build in tied to the services themselves, like behind the scenes. I believe when you like set up a service in the price book in House Call Pro, but I don't know that it's smart enough to know like by zip code.
Because
applies, or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe
because like states have free tax rates and zip code jurisdictions where you can download the file and upload it into your software, and I'm not sure if that would work. Otherwise, I'm wondering if you can push it over into, like, if you use QuickBooks, if you could push it over into QuickBooks and do the tax in QuickBooks.
I think from what I've seen, I think House Call Pro can calculate the same as QuickBooks. But it's tricky to get it out of it. But that gets CRM specific. He said House Call Pro, you have to add the tax rates manually, so maybe they're a little behind. He's in Arkansas. He said in Arkansas they want you to line item the labor and the materials separately, and depends what the service is if it's taxable. So if you lump it together and you pay taxes on materials, well now the tax rate gets applied to the whole job, so the client kind of gets double taxed. Is that a common nuance, like trying to segregate pieces of your process about like what ends up getting taxed to the end client versus, I guess, if it was on the materials and you needed to pay it, that would be your use tax, right? Like, is that a common thing that you see, that somebody goes out and does a job and part of the tax they need to pay and part of it they need to pass on to the client?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Minnesota's like that too.
He had also said you have to look up specific tax rates for different cities and counties. It doesn't automatically change. And that's the same in Minnesota. We have to have you have to select every job and location, you have to select which tax rate. I remember building it. We used a CRM called Service Monster. I remember building it out in there, and I think they had 5 line items. And when I was building out the tax rate, like, we still have to know where the job sits and which tax rate applies. But then we can click on, like, we have it built out to click on, like, this is the Minneapolis tax rate if they're in this little pocket of Minneapolis. The problem was I think there were 6 or 7 different sales taxes that applied if you were in that pocket of Minneapolis. And our CRM only had 5 spots. And I was like, shit, I don't know. Like, I gotta lump a couple together. But I still need to charge the whole tax for the thing. It was just goofy. It's like you're always trying to find the workaround that gets you the right answer.
Right. Usually the state, if you paid tax on your materials, there's usually a workaround to get a credit back for the materials you paid tax on if now you're reselling them, or so. Yeah, I just have to look at the option. What did he say? He was in Arkansas?
Yeah, he's in Arkansas.
But usually there's a way, because usually contractors have inventory or something like that. Like in Wisconsin, we have the ability to claim a credit or a deduction on the sales for materials that are then resold that you already paid tax on. So usually there's workarounds.
Yeah. This is another good one. Tammy and I had this conversation, and we actually got different answers. Tammy did, from 2 different people at the Department of Revenue in Texas. And we were like, oh, I don't know what to do about that. But she runs a maid service. And so she was trying to figure out, like, when she goes to do work, is the sales tax that they need to collect based on, and this is in Texas, is the tax needed to be collected based on the location of the client or the location of their office? And I'm biased because I know how I've done it in the past, because we had this in Ohio, we had it in Minnesota, where everything that we were aware of was our taxes were based on the client's location and the revenue that was produced out there. In Texas, it reads a little bit like it's based on the location of your office. And we found examples of certain industries where it was based on the location of the job, and certain ones where it was based on the location of the office, and they were kind of conflicting. And so Tammy called the Department of Revenue there to try to get, like, the answer of, hey, am I charging that rate or am I charging this rate? Because the rate is different in these places. And like I said, got one answer that was you got to collect it based on the location of the client, and one that was you got to charge it based on your office location. And she's like, I don't know what to do now, because now I got the same place telling me 2 different things. And that's where I think the gray area comes in, is like, you get it reads a certain way, and when you get an interpretation of that that's different, it's like, you're like, well, how do I get in the least amount of trouble is maybe my next question. Have you seen that before?
Well, a lot of states, if you call, you'll get different answers. And sometimes Wisconsin's the same way. Didn't used to be, but it happens
Well,
sometimes.
you used to work there, so then at least they had this expert that would give them the same answer. But then you left and started running.
Well,
your own
it was different procedures, and a lot of experienced people have retired in a lot of states. I mean, it's just what's happening in the workforce in general.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's destination based, so I would feel safer with it being where the service occurred versus any other location. So that would be the proper place that the tax would be based.
That was what I told Tammy. That was just my bias because her and I had this conversation, and that was my understanding, and that was how we did it in Minnesota. But the rule read very specifically that way in Minnesota, and same with Ohio. And I guess my logic was, and maybe tell me if I'm wrong on this, my logic was this really isn't my tax to pay. Like, it's my obligation to pass it, to collect it and pass it through. But the tax is really the consumer's tax. You're taxing them. You're just the intermediary, but like, it's their sales tax that they're paying for hiring your service, and you collect it from them and then you pay it. And so because it's technically like their tax based on them hiring you and wherever they're at, it would make sense to me that the tax is based on their location and not my location. That was, I don't even know if that logic is right.
It's still where the service took place, not where they hire you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, but it's because it's their tax to pay, right? So therefore, wherever that work is done, wherever their property is or whatever you're doing, that's where the tax would apply versus my office is located over here. That was my logic, is based on the location of the job.
Well, anytime it's destination based, it's where if it's physical property, it's where the customer takes possession of physical property. If it's a service, it's where the location where the service occurs, or where the service is first used. So sometimes it's like software or something that's downloaded.
Yeah.
And so where service takes place, that's hard to say. So then it's where it's first used.
I was to say, this weekend I'd be out in the fish house working on my laptop. I don't know what the tax rate is out on Lake Mille Lacs.
And then, like, if you sell apps, you're like, how do I know where my client first used their app? Then it's just their credit card address, whatever address, what. Then you go through, there's sourcing, first it's this, then it's this, then it's that. You go by sourcing in the statutes, and whatever first address you can, or what first location you can use in that sourcing list.
And is that methodology consistent across all states, or are there different states that do it differently for different simplicity reasons?
Most of the states are the same, but some states have specific sourcing rules for certain services.
Okay.
And that differs state to state.
Gotcha. So let's say in Tammy's case, she did say, thank you, baby Jesus, I'm doing it correct. But one of our other friends is doing it the other way because she understood it the other way, and then and called the Department of Revenue and got the different side of it. So I guess then my question is, what happens if you're doing it wrong? And how do they find, do they find that you're doing it wrong? Like, do they notice it? Do they come to get you?
The assessment would be, worst case scenario, the assessment would be the difference in the two county taxes.
Okay. Would you have fines or penalties for having done it wrong for a period of time? Or I assume you had been
interest for the difference in tax.
Is there like a standard interest rate they use, or is it just whatever LIBOR plus something is at the
time?
Each
state has their own set interest, and it's set by statute by the legislature. So Wisconsin, the assessment interest is 12%, and the refund interest is 3%.
Oh, come on, Wisconsin. How are you going to do me like that? That's quite the spread. That's quite They're
Yeah.
like working like a bank.
Yeah, it stinks.
What's the likelihood, like, if it's an honest mistake, right, and you're paying it the wrong way, but you're doing your best, do they forgive you once? Like, oh, hey, we got it. Yeah, you've been paying, but you just blip this one, or is it just like black and white? Nope, this is the penalty. Sorry, this is how it's done.
So in Wisconsin, so I don't know what Texas does. So I I can't tell how strict Texas would be. But I can tell you in Wisconsin, they don't care what county you pay to. So they would just they would care if it was like if you were not paying. So Milwaukee County right now, if city of Milwaukee, the tax rate is 7.9%.
Mm-hmm.
So they would probably pick up a little for that. The other counties are all 5.5%. If you're paying to the wrong county, the state of Wisconsin and audit could care less.
They're gonna be like, hey, at least you're paying.
Yeah, I mean the counties care, but they're not doing the audit, and so.
Do they? If they find you doing something wrong, is it hey, get this fixed? You got to do this the right way and like do this and prove to us you're doing it the right way? Or is it like you got to go back as far back as you've been doing it wrong, or go back 2 years or 3 years? Like, how do they decide how far back you need to go to fix it?
So audits, each state has a look back period. So if you're registered, the look back period is 3, 4, or 5 years. If you're not registered, the look back is 6 years for Wisconsin. Most states it's 6 years. I don't think it goes beyond 6 years. I could be wrong, but I think it's most states are 6 years. Technically, if you're not registered, the look back period is indefinite, but most states don't go back farther.
There's enough auditing to be done that it's like you don't need to go dig up a cold case.
Yeah. And fraud, if you are registered and you're found to have underreported more than 25%, then they will go back 6 years.
Okay.
Or if it's fraud, they'll go back further. But fraud has a whole different level of, you have to prove intent, and there's more to it. So fraud doesn't come up very often. I like to find fraud audits when I was an auditor.
Just more fun to be had.
I don't know, if you're going out and auditing, it was to level the playing field for businesses who are doing things right. So there was more reason to do that. So
justice.
Yeah.
Justice.
And nothing happened to those people. You were just making sure they paid their,
paid their dues.
Yeah, I mean, they got caught. They stopped doing it. Yeah. And really, the whole thing is when you file a return and you're remitting just numbers. It's not attached to any documentation when you remit it. So some people, they get away with it a little bit, and you just see each return, it just grows, and they don't put together how bad it is.
Yeah.
Like when you're committing, and I don't know if some of these people really thought I'm committing fraud. I mean, they knew they were doing something wrong, but you know what I'm saying? Like, they didn't really think I'm doing something horrible.
Yeah, they justified it in their mind.
Like, it wasn't really stealing from someone directly. They were just, it was their business, it was their money, so they thought. So, but it grew so fast. And when we did the audit and they saw the numbers, I think they were just shocked. Well, except for one company, they tracked it all, and
they knew exactly how much money they had borrowed from folks.
Well, they didn't borrow it. They took money under the table, and they tracked it in petty cash. She
Yeah.
tracked and wrote everything in QuickBooks. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're trying to hide something, maybe just keep it as cash and don't put it in QuickBooks. That'd be
Yeah. I mean, pretty much everything accounting wise, like anything you do in business, especially nowadays, because everything's electronic. And I mean, really, for good people who are doing the right things, it's great, because anyone who thinks, oh no, I didn't keep records. I mean, not that I advise that, but like if you get audited, call me up, because we can always go to vendors. We can get your records. They exist.
Yep.
Nothing disappears. So, but in cases of fraud, like you can't hide stuff. Stuff doesn't disappear, and there's always a trail. So, yeah, but this lady kept everything documented very well in QuickBooks and didn't delete anything. And she destroyed all her physical records, but and it took me 3 years. But one day I was like, these random check numbers just kept appearing. And I'm like, where do these go to? And so finally I figured out, like, I'm going to just run a report on these check numbers, and because we get a backup of QuickBooks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, it's petty cash. It was $1 million in tax alone.
Holy shit.
In petty cash. They had that much running through there.
I mean, definitionally, petty cash seems like there's a threshold where it's no longer petty. When you say $1 million, I don't think that was just cash. Now there's no petty.
It was a way for her to track the money that they weren't tracking elsewhere. But they were accepting gold bullion for they were in the marina business.
Anthony said, Holly, get my info from Dan and reach out to me, please. Anthony, I got you covered, man. Just start dealing in gold bullion. You'd be fine.
Just don't put it in QuickBooks.
Yeah, just don't. We do. I'm not going to incriminate anybody on the show, but we do have clients, especially in states with crazy workers' comp policies and stuff like that, where the tax environment is not very pro-business. And where it's like culturally more, everybody wants to deal in cash with small business owners. There's various areas in the country where that's way more prominent than other places. And so we have some clients where we have a fun coupons spreadsheet that we get, because they track it, but they know not to at least put it in QuickBooks. And they're like, what do I do with this? I'm just like, don't tell me about it, is what you do with it. Like, don't tell me about it.
So certain industries, so like my father-in-law owned two bars in Wisconsin. So you know how Wisconsin bars are, and I don't know if people outside of Wisconsin understand how Wisconsin bars are.
Yeah.
So you have your meat raffle, you have your Packer raffle.
You got your shake of the day.
You got shake of the day.
Sign in. You got the sign in.
Yeah, you got the sign in. You got the card.
You probably got your football pool numbers and your NASCAR numbers.
And then we had the gaming machines.
Naturally.
Now those are all electronic, but
you know what? Skip is my general manager. When you were talking about the auditing process and like getting a meaty one, Skip loves, you can tell by his emojis here. He's like, oh yeah, a puzzle. And then his smiley face with hearts. One of his clients that he works on is a bar in Michigan, and trying to keep track of their pull tabs and like every other little like cash flow thing they have going on in QuickBooks is pretty funny. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, there's just I mean, but that's all kind of like a given, but you have to be smart about it. I mean, but I would be like, you don't advertise it on Facebook. It can't be, over a certain dollar amount. In Wisconsin, once it gets to like a certain dollar amount, one bar was at 140,000 or something like that, and then they got nabbed. But they were advertising it, and it was huge. And then, of course, DOR went in and got them. But you can't get too big with that stuff. But
I tell people that all the time, like our bookkeeping clients, because so many of them, when they start out, and I want to get into like some of the pitfalls here that I see with sales taxes. I'm sure you see 10 times more, but people will start out and they're pressure washing driveways and houses because they had time on a long weekend and they did theirs, and then their neighbor asked them to do theirs, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, I got this job, but now I got so much pressure washing work, like I think I'm just going to start just pressure washing and running a business. And so they have the side hustle that turns into a main gig, and they start building it, but they don't track it because they don't start treating it like a business. So they're doing cash jobs and they're just rounding up and saying, yeah, that's $300. This is $500, whatever. And so they don't even realize at the get-go when they start doing the work that there's even a tax to be collected, right? Because they don't view it as a business. They just view it as, yeah, I'm just helping these people. And so they don't price it right. They don't build it right. They deal in cash and they don't pay attention to sales taxes. And eventually they start going like, man, I was doing well, but now I'm trying to like grow this business and I got to buy another truck and hire this person. And I realize like, I'm not really tracking anything. And I know there's money in the bank account, but not as much as I would think there would be by how much work we're doing. And I don't know where the money's going. And then they usually get a hold of me and I'm like, you got to stop trying to run a bar. Like that's what I say to them is like, right now you're running your business like it's a bar and you can't, because you're about to have a bunch of 20-year-old kids driving $40,000 trucks, like running these things, and you can't have them out running around with $500 cash in their van. Like it's not going to go well. There's too many loose ends, and it's worse than a bar, because at least a bar, it's all right here, and you can put cameras up and see if anybody takes some. They're all out driving around with your money, and you're counting on them to bring it back. Like, you got to dial in your sales tax processes. You got to dial in your cash processes. You can't scale that business. You get too big. You're going to get too big, and either Department of Revenue is going to come get you, or you're going to be like, this sucks because I can't keep track of all this shit. Like you'll eventually break yourself. So I see that all the time as people start to scale. And like I said, they start and they don't even know that sales taxes are a thing. I'm sure you see other issues with like pitfalls or just like the spiral out of control that can go wrong with sales taxes. So hit us with like the top 3 things you see when sales taxes go sideways. That's going to be like the new segment. But like, what's the common threads that you see when you start working with somebody that is off the rails on their taxes?
Some of the things I've seen is people, well, like that person you're talking about, I've seen big excavating companies where they grew so much and they weren't even invoicing people. They just stopped invoicing. And
like stopped invoicing because they got so far behind, or stopped invoicing because they just had like a handshake deal with somebody? Like what caused that process to lapse?
Just so busy out doing work and stuff that they knew they had sales. They may have invoiced, they didn't follow up on it. It just didn't follow up on the book work. So then I came along. I was still at DOR. I was auditing. I audited this young man, and he had the sales, but he didn't even invoice them. So he got audited on sales. He never followed up on invoicing, but they were sales. I felt terrible.
If he's cash basis, does he still have to pay the sales taxes if he never actually collected the money? Or was he filing accrual basis and so had to go based on the value of the work that he did?
Wisconsin requires accrual basis for sales tax.
Really?
So,
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a bummer for him. He should have been he should have come over to Minnesota. Do cash basis.
Yeah. So yeah. So that was a bummer for him, but he learned his lesson and then he hired someone. So just being diligent, but regardless, even if he was cash basis, why would you not collect that money? Okay, you don't even want to go cash basis.
Yeah.
My point is when I help people and work with people, you want to be on top of your sales and use tax, not just because of the sales and use tax. If you're on top of it, you're on. It's it's the backbone of your entire business. You're managing your purchases and your sales. And like at the beginning, when I talked about, if people missed it, but being able to look at high level grouping things, you're able to manage your business and see things. And Dan, you were talking about grouping things on your P&L and watching things. But if you work with someone like you and me, you're watching your business, you're managing it, you're managing your expenses and your sales, and you're going to see your entire business. It's going to be more streamlined and you're going to be in control. So it's just so important to have your sales and use tax under control and understand it, because you're going to understand your entire business and it's not going to be chaos. Some of the other things I've seen is I'm just going to pay tax on everything. So just out of fear. And then those people overpaid. I had a manufacturer who paid tax, and when I got a hold of him, he had already been in business for 12 years. And just in a 4-year period, that's as far back as we could go for refunds, he got $170,000 in refunds. But that means
I bet he felt like he won the lottery.
He did, but I kind of burst his bubble when I said, that's not really great, because you lost $340,000 in the 8 years we couldn't get refunds for.
You're like, how did you stay in business?
So then he didn't feel so happy.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we need to keep this in control. So you don't want to overpay tax hoping to get audited. You want to pay the right tax only. Mm-hmm. So if you hear someone bragging about, I got audited and got a huge refund, that's not a good thing, because they paid too much tax.
Without that money for a long time. You could have been growing your business with it.
And all that money you got back was your money. That's not like state money. So
but if you passed it through to the client, right, and you overcharge them sales taxes, do you have an onus to try to give it back to the end client for what you overcharged? Or is it just, I overcharged you, but now I get audited and I get the difference? Like, what's your obligation back to your clients who you pass the tax through? Is it just kind of shrug and move on?
So in an audit, it comes back to you and you get to keep it. Usually it's offsetting any other errors you had. So when it offsets other errors, it's going to be impossible to refund to your clients.
Yeah, that'd be pretty ridiculous to try to go back and figure that out.
So outside of audit, you can't get a refund of tax you collected in error unless you're going to give it back to your client. Whoever paid the tax gets the tax. So if you remitted use tax directly to the state, you can ask for a refund and keep it.
It's like the finders keepers. It's like the last person to touch it. It's like if you lick a piece of food, it's yours. If you're the last one to touch it, then you get it back.
Well,
those are terrible analogies, but that's just where my head goes.
Yeah. So yeah, but you don't want to overcharge. You don't want to be in the habit of overcharging your customers' tax, because that hurts your ability to compete with your competition.
Yeah.
So we don't want to do that either. So we want to be, and more people, more and more consumers it's top of mind of, I'm taxed too much. The government's on me. And so they're getting very savvy about proper tax treatment. And it's a bad look if you're not using proper tax treatment. So we don't want to discredit our businesses by not having proper tax treatment.
So I want to, I'll just like paint a hypothetical and kind of work through like a what if, because I want to like explore what do you do when there are pitfalls and things are already sideways, like what does Holly do and what should the business owner be thinking about? And then, because I'm a sucker for stories, I'd love to just hear about some of that goofiest shit you've got. You're like throughout the years of like, well, there's one time I was working with this guy, and then like there's just got to be some crazy stories. So let's say you've collected some sales taxes. You're a business owner. You got in this pitfall of like, yep, I grew this thing, but I didn't have it all buttoned up. Collected some through my CRM, but didn't really know what I was collecting, and I know it's wrong, right? Like I know I haven't collected the right amount. And because I'm not collecting the right amount, I stopped remitting it anyway. And so I'm somewhere between behind on it and not having the right amount documented and the right amount collected. What's the and you're getting letters from your Department of Revenue saying, hey, you owe some money. What's your recourse to like, figure out what do you actually owe? Like how do you go back and figure out what that should have been? And how do you work with your state to try, like, do you pick up the phone tomorrow and say like, hey, I effed up. I need help getting this squared away because I don't even know what I'm collecting. Like, how do you get back on track without blowing your business up, I guess is the question.
Well, yeah, I don't find that difficult to deal with. I would contact right away and say, hey, there's usually a compliance email or number on there. And I would say, I received the notice. I apologize. I'm working on this right now. Can you give me a little more time? Because I don't know how long this has been going on. And they'll probably say, yeah, get us something right away. And all you need to do is go back and file or amend your returns. So you're probably going to be filing for the first time.
To amend one, is there a special process to go amend one, or is it just filing one and then if there's already one filed, do they just automatically treat it as an amendment?
So most states, you just go in to where you filed your original return, and it's the same return. You're going to say you're amending it.
Okay.
And then you refile it. Just make sure you indicate the amount on the return that you previously remitted. There's a line for that. And then you just remit or indicate what it should be, what the correct amounts should be, and then the amount you previously remitted, and it'll come up with the amount that you owe. And then you remit that. It's really not as difficult. And then just make sure you keep your work papers. Work papers are the documentation of how you came up with the numbers for that return. So
okay.
what reports and what invoices and what changes you're making for that.
If let's say you're a few years behind and you're supposed to be filing quarterly or whatever, and that amount builds up and you don't have the funds to pay those, do you just go like one at a time? I assume that's when you pick up the phone and say like, hey, I got to get this straight. I don't know what I'm going to owe. I'm getting letters. That's a number, whatever that number is, I got to go back and do the math.
Okay.
If you're insolvent, right? If you're going to like shut your business down because you don't have the cash for it, how do they generally work with you to like get those caught up? Is it just file one at a time until you get them caught up, or is it file all of them and then let's get a payment plan set up? Like, how do you see people dig out of a hole like that?
So what I highly advise, because sales tax is something that you absolutely have to pay. So you need to get those, especially if you collected from your customers. If you haven't collected from your customers, that's a little different story, but you still need to pay it to keep operating your business. So you're going to need to file everything. And I highly recommend finding some kind of loan or something, because it's going to be cheaper than any type of interest your state's going to charge you.
Oh, that's a good point. If you already know that it's going to be 12% or whatever it is, go find financing that's cheaper than that.
Well, because like Wisconsin, I don't know what other states have penalties, because you're going to get penalties and other things added on, and you're going to get delinquent interest, not the regular standard interest. So Wisconsin, it's going to be delinquent interest at 18% plus penalties. So it's hefty.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we can discuss and try to get penalties waived, but you're going to have interest, which is not waivable. So I highly, highly recommend doing anything possible so that there's not a lien on your home or anything like that to take out a loan. If you have to do a payment plan, do that, but it's not recommended.
Yeah. So Anthony already said, like, hey, reach out to me. Let's say you reach out to Anthony, he reaches out to you, and you're gonna engage and start like working on stuff in Arkansas. What is your process? Like, take us through what it looks like to go work with Holly Hoffman. What type of agreements do you work with people on? What's the duration of them? How do you bill them? What's the cadence of like the process for you to get in there and figure their stuff out and get them on the right track?
Yeah. So I work in 1-year contracts so that we have plenty of time to work together, and it allows people time to ask me questions, and we can, you can still operate your business and you have time to do what you need to do and not feel rushed. And it's a one flat fee. And so I'd work with Anthony and identify what the issues are and then identify a price for him. And I'm not a hourly billing person. It's a flat fee. So then there's no pressure. So, and then I work with everyone in the company, not just one person, so that if the business has staff that need to be trained or anything like that, then I work with everyone. And then
you bill your flat fee as like a one-time thing, or do you bill it monthly, or how do you invoice them?
Usually it's paid up front, but sometimes I'll make exceptions and work with the business. It depends on the business and the pricing. So.
Oh, I got a good one for you. Is your service taxable?
No, because I'm an accounting service.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, and the first thing we do is have a consultation. It usually lasts a while. If you're close enough, it'll be on site. But if we're not close enough, I'm not going to make it down to Arkansas. I do travel a lot, but
maybe if you're down there speaking, maybe if you're down there on a stage, you can swing by.
I mean, I do travel a lot for speaking. I'll be down in Miami in April, but so we'll meet, we'll have a consultation, and I'll learn all about your business, talk about all your issues. I'll talk about what you do and figure out your tax treatment. In that discussion, I'll identify what I feel are your top main issues that we need to address. And then we'll go through some things that we can fix. We'll come out with our action plan and kind of what we're going to tackle over the next 3 months. And then we'll get going on that. And then you'll have some action items. I'll have some action items. If you have any software that I can connect to remotely, then we can move faster and I can get working right away. I mean, it's nice because sales tax, I don't do anything in your system, but I can run reports and send stuff to you. I work in ShareFile so that you can download things and send them to me securely, and I can do that to you too. And then I can send you resources and information about tax treatment in ShareFile. So, and I curate everything for my client. So, it's rare to have someone actually say, this is the tax treatment for you. This is a cheat sheet for your company. This is how you treat things. So it's nice.
Do you have anybody that works for you, or are you like the person? And if they hire Holly, they're getting Holly.
You'll be working with me. I do have staff. So I have Kylie Kearns works with me. But she's not working directly. You might hear from her, but she's not going to be working with you. And then I have interns that also work with me. So they might be working in the background, but they're not going to be working directly with you.
Scrubbing some data, pulling the things together.
Yeah, they help me a lot. But yeah. Kylie may be down the road, but not right now.
Just getting her reps. getting the reps in.
Yeah, she's learning.
What's some of the goofier things you've seen? Like I want the extremes of both ends of, like you mentioned, the one guy that got, a bunch of money back, but left a bunch of money on the table too. What are the craziest things you've seen where you like were able to get in and save the day in some way? And what are some of the things where you're just like, hey, here's the damages and this is what we got to do, but at least like we stopped the bleeding here type of situations? What are the because stories are fun, like what are the craziest situations you found people get themselves into with sales tax related stuff?
I had a manufacturer come to me right after I started my company, and they said, hey, do you know multi-state tax? And I said, yeah. And they said, we have a multinational company that's trying to purchase us, and they're giving us a hard time about our sales tax liabilities. Can you help us out? And I said, sure. And I ended up, their sales price increased $29 million because I helped them with their showing that they didn't have multi-state sales tax liabilities like the other company was claiming.
Yeah.
So, and I found out that the CPA firm that the other company that was purchasing them was using was Ernst & Young.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I felt good about that.
Just trying to drive the valuation down and
yeah.
So then you're like, I'll take 10% of the increase in valuation and we'll call it good.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have. I mean, obviously I'm not pricing myself correctly. So
that is crazy though, to think like we're talking sales taxes and small percentages. And yet like when you start applying this to scale, that's not always hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, but millions of dollars in some cases. Like that's wild to think that it would change I mean, I suppose evaluation is a multiple on an earnings already, and so it extenuates it even that much more. 29 million is bonkers.
Yeah.
I could go buy a new fish house with that. Yeah. Like cool stuff.
At least one.
Yeah. One nice one. One really nice one.
Yeah. So, and then another company that, I had done training for DOR for many years. So I'm connected with a lot of big contractors, and one that I was connected to, they reached out to me. I worked with their CFO, and he said, can you do a conference call with me and our attorney? And I said, sure. And he's like, yeah, we got a problem, and we're just not competitive with other steel fabricator installers, and we don't understand how they're doing it. We're getting hit hard with sales tax, and we don't understand how other people are doing it. And I'm like, what's your issue? And I helped them with sales tax treatment with their subcontractors and fabrication of steel. And I didn't feel like anything difficult, but it's something that they just couldn't comprehend of how the sales tax treatment worked and how they could get around it legally. But it was something everyone else did. It was just obvious, but they just couldn't work it out. And I just remember this so clearly because my dad was dying in the hospital, and I had this meeting. It was a 10-minute meeting in the parking lot before I went in to see my dad. And I only made $3,500. But at the end of the call, they go, this is great. This is tens of millions of dollars for our company. And I was like, once again.
Yeah. I think I need to put in a 1% retainer, 1% of savings.
Why? So I was like, well, I'm glad I could help you out. Just call me up if you need anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? But so that was another situation.
That's crazy.
I mean, sales tax really does have a huge impact on companies and how they succeed. So
what are some of the ones where you've seen things get most? Because this is the thing I experience with bookkeeping is people will try to do it themselves for way too long sometimes. And by the time I get it, I'm just like, oh no. And I have the luxury that you don't have, which is I can be like, yeah, let's just burn this one down and start a fresh QuickBooks. Like we don't need, we can just go back and recreate the last year. You don't have that option. What's the biggest hole that you've seen somebody dig for themselves?
Well, I don't ever see it where they need. Okay, so that's the difference between me and you. For sales tax, it's never that way. And I always tell people, because they're like, oh, do I need to switch to something else? And I'm always like, no. And it's like, we just need to, what do you do? How do you do it? Okay. We'll make these couple changes. So we make those changes. I'm like, we can't change everything at once. Because if you change everything at once, then it's just chaos.
Yeah.
So we do a couple major changes. Then we move on to the next changes. And the best way to work with a client is helping them do return prep, sales tax return preps. And with that, we iron out so many issues. And it usually takes a year, sometimes 18 months to get all their issues worked out if they really have messed up stuff. But then we're ironing out mismapping of income and expenses and all sorts of issues. If they use House Call Pro or Service Titan or Field Edge or any other extra software, we're fixing issues in that as well. Mm-hmm. So that's the best way, but we're not burning down anything. We're literally fixing everything, but tweaking what they use. So whatever they use, we're tweaking it and making it all accurate. So
yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is like, have you ever seen anybody like go out of business or shut their business down or switch anything because the liability was too great? Like they got so far behind on it that they couldn't dig themselves out. Like
nope.
What's the...
Nope. I've heard them freak out and say that. And I always say, focus. No, we're not going to do that. And I'm like, you can work through anything. People at DOR used to always laugh at me when I was talking to my audit taxpayers. I always say clients. They're not my clients, but my taxpayers. Because the worst things that always happen, they would break their leg and their parents would pass away and they would get sick and their dog would die. And it would just be the most horrible things. Like audit is terrible. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. And then we'd be going through the audit. And I would keep my people so focused. Like, it's okay. All you need to do is look for these things. We're going to focus on this schedule and you're going to find this stuff and you're going to reduce this and we're going to get this removed and and the next step is we're going to do this. And that's what I do with my clients. Like, okay, I mean, the only audit clients I have are people who don't hire me for sales tax compliance.
Yeah.
So my audit clients do have issues, but like I just helped a client. He had no records and he's like, oh, I'm just screwed. I'm going to have to shut down my business. And I'm like, just settle. We didn't even look. And I'm like, you don't know what it's going to be like. We haven't even gotten anywhere. We can find records. Like there's stuff out there. We can contact vendors. We just closed his audit. It wasn't great. He ended up owing $42,000, which isn't great, but it's not going to shut your business down. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, I can pay that. I'm like, okay, we're going to appeal and get it reduced some more. So I'm like, and it's just appealing so we can have more time to find more records. But it's never catastrophic. I had another client whose accountant had been their accountant for like 30 years and got a brain tumor and didn't realize it. So she totally messed up their taxes, but she was also a horrible sales tax accountant. They ended up owing like 100 and some thousand. And they too thought it was going to be catastrophic, but they understood that they really owed that money. And that was the lowest we could get it because they really owed it. So they're like, we can do this. We'll pay it. We got it. We'll work through it. And you can do it. You can, it's never catastrophic.
Yeah. Do you, I got one more question for you. And then I'm curious if there's anything we missed that you want to hit on before we wrap up. But do you ever find like people are defining their own services wrong, and they're calling something this and they're charging taxes if it's this, but it's actually doesn't need to be called that. It could be called this, and this doesn't have any sales tax. Like, what's the propensity for people to like mislabel and mistreat their own services and end up getting goofed up that way?
All the time. But that's part of understanding and bridging that gap of sales tax law language versus contractor language or regular business owner, regular human being language.
Yeah. Human language.
Yeah. And knowing that auditors are zeroed in on certain words, and they're going to see that and glom onto it. And once they see that, you're going to have a hard time changing it. So, like, for instance, in Wisconsin, drains are not taxable. Service to drains are not taxable.
Like drain cleaning, plumbing style drains?
Yeah. So replacing a wax ring on a toilet is not taxable because it's a service to a drain. Snaking a drain is not taxable. So I tell my plumbers, you are not unclogging a toilet because that's taxable.
Yeah,
but snaking a drain or unclogging a toilet is taxable. Snaking a drain is not taxable.
You're working on the drain.
Yep. So, and they're like, oh my God, that's so ridiculous. And I'm like, but it matters.
Yep. Call it the right thing. Call it the right thing. Save yourself the hassle.
Yeah. So there's things like that. Or there's little things that even I didn't understand working at DOR. If you move an air conditioner, like my air conditioner used to get crushed by ice from our roof. So say you had to move it from one side of the house to the other side of the house in Wisconsin, that's a transportation service. It's non-taxable transportation service.
Interesting. But HVAC service is taxable?
But a service to an air conditioner is normally taxable.
Yeah.
But that's not considered a service to air conditioner. It's a transportation service because you're not doing something to it. You're just moving it.
Just transporting it.
So,
and I think like people mentioned the gray area and you said, well, it's not that gray, but I think that's where that's gray to the small business owner because they don't know how to interpret it and they're afraid, right? They're afraid of getting it wrong and having it come back and bite them later. And so I think that's the challenge. I know from talking to Anthony, who had chimed in quite a bit, like that's one of his challenges is like, what do I call this thing? Like, do I call it the thing that's taxable or do I call it the thing that's not taxable? Because this is, but this isn't. And I'm kind of doing both while I'm out there, right? I'm kind of unclogging the toilet, but I'm also working on the drain. And so how do I label this thing? And am I going to get in trouble if I label it the one way and then they come and say you should have labeled it that way? I think that's like I got asked the other day by one of our clients. He's like, what's the best thing that you do for me? And I was like, cheerleader. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, because you already kind of know, you just need to like borrow my confidence. Because I look at so many P&Ls and I can look at yours and tell you exactly what's happening in your business. You're gonna be like, you're going to say, that is what's happening in my business. I'll be like, I know, because I look at these damn things all the time and I can tell that you're paying your employees this way, but you could do it that way. And you're probably doing this marketing, but here's some other things that you could do. And he's like, yeah, you do that. And I'm like, and then when you do it and your results are awesome, then I'm just your cheerleader. because we're going to meet. And you'd be like, what else can I do? I'm like, more. Like, you're crushing it. You could just do more if you want to do more. You don't have to do more. But I'm like your number one fan. I'm your cheerleader. That's what I bring to the table. Everybody needs a cheerleader. They need the confidence from some authority to say, yeah, you can do that. And here's how to do it. And here's how to make sure it doesn't bite you and get it right. And then dial it in so you don't have to keep looking over your shoulder.
Yeah. And I think people are scared to death to deal with sales tax. And then when they have someone like me, then they're like, oh my gosh, this isn't that scary and I can do this. And they all say, oh, it's you who did it. But I'm like, no, actually you did it. You're doing it just fine. You got it. You guys understand it.
It's the unknown. I think for like small business owners, they get into the thing because they know how to do the service, right? They know how to pressure wash this. They know how to go mold that. Whatever they get into, they're experts in the doing. And then all of a sudden they start running a business and they're not experts in managing people and they're not experts in building procurement systems and they're not experts in doing accounting. And so all of a sudden as the business grows, it's like, oh, now we need all these other skills. And they're just nervous about the unknown. And that's like the one thing that paralyzes them. They can take anything apart and put it back together, but they look at sales taxes and there's like, oh no, like, I don't know that. I can't touch that. I can't take it apart and put it back together. And it's like, it's paralyzing to some business owners. Things that nerds like us are just like, what? Oh, that's easy. We know. We got this.
I mean, I say it's easy. It's not always easy. It's nice to have someone who lives it 24/7. But then when business owners have someone like us and then they can partner with us, suddenly they feel a lot more confident in their business. But they start to realize when they have this under control, like all of a sudden their business just seems like steady and calm and like, hey, I got this all, like everything starts jiving.
Yeah. Not totally chaos on fire all the time.
Not so stressful. They're not worrying about it. It's just a lot easier.
What I'm out of awesome questions for you. But I'm curious, is there anything that we missed? Anything you want to like hit people with before we wrap it up? Any closing comments or questions I should have asked you that I whiffed?
I guess I didn't really go into my experience at DOR. My background at Department of Revenue is that I ran the Speakers Bureau. Our Wisconsin Department of Revenue had a Speakers Bureau, and I ran that for our state. So I traveled the state and trained tax professionals, associations, and businesses on sales tax law. And I was a contractor sales tax expert. And then also I worked in our headquarters office and was a technical tax expert. And there I did private letter rulings and wrote publications and admin rules and researched other states' laws for writing Wisconsin laws and implemented sales tax law for the state. So that was my background. That's why I do what I do. And I decided in 2019, I was not happy with the direction that DOR was going and thought it would be better to take what I was doing for the state and doing it privately for businesses. So that's what I did. And so I technically still work in the same groups. I work with the contractor suppliers, contractor associations, and all the other associations that I used to work with, Campground Association. And like I said, I chair the tax committee for WICPA, so I'm very involved in legislative stuff. And I still work with Department of Revenue pretty closely. So it's been a weird non-transition, but it's nice working directly on behalf of businesses.
All right. I got two more things. One is first, how does Anthony or anybody else that wants to get in touch with you, how does somebody get in touch with you to explore using your sales tax service?
Oh, so everyone knows me. They don't know my name. So everyone used to call me the sales tax lady when I was speaking. So that's just what I'm known as, the
It
sales
just
tax
stuck.
lady. So, so my website is salestaxlady.com. So that's where all my information is, and you can reach me at there, or holly@salestaxlady.com is my email. So feel free to reach out. So salestaxlady.com or holly@salestaxlady.com.
I just dropped it in the chat, so it is out there in the business Facebook page feed. It is out there on the YouTube feed. If you're out on my personal Facebook page, I already told you right at the beginning of the show, you got to get over to the business Facebook page anyway, so you can comment and go back and forth like Anthony was doing and Skip was doing, and some weirdos on YouTube that chime in from who knows where. I got this is like, we talked about this a couple weeks ago when we were chatting, and I think this is a good mic drop to leave everybody with, because you were telling me a story about you were working. I don't remember if it was an audit or what the process was, but in your business, you were working back with the Department of Revenue, and they were trying to like overcharge somebody sales taxes, and they're like, "No, this is it," and you're like, "No, that's not it," because I wrote that law, so I'm pretty sure I know what it says. Can you, what remind me what that story was? But I feel like that's a real good. Feel like that's a good one to end on.
Okay. So one of the contractor suppliers I work with, they contacted me and said, "Oh, you need to help one of our clients. They're under audit and it's real bad." So I reached out to them. It was an HVAC contractor, and they were being assessed $1 million on all of their inventory. And I was like, what the heck? So their audit, the auditor was trying to say that they couldn't purchase their inventory items without tax for resale. Well, in Wisconsin, contractors who hold inventory can purchase their materials without tax for resale until they use them. And then they can determine, if they owe tax. So she was trying to say they had a 30-day limit to use those materials or they had to pay tax. So she was trying to assess tax on all their inventory. And so then I was telling her, no, no, no. And then she's like, well, it says right here. And I'm like, look, don't try to tell me what that publication says, because I wrote that. So then she was like, well, you can't expect me to be a sales tax expert. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're representing the Department of Revenue and you're auditing and you're assessing them $1 million. Well, anyways, that audit.
The client expects you to be a sales tax expert, because if you're going to charge somebody $1 million, you better have some damn expertise.
That audit ended in a $16,000 refund. So she didn't know what she was doing.
That's different, going from paying $1 million to getting 16,000 back. Those are different. I'm a bookkeeper, so I would know what to do with that. Those are two different things. And most of my clients would prefer getting 16,000 back.
Yeah. So that was good for my client. They were a bit happy.
That's hilarious that she literally quoted the thing that you wrote, and then when you called her on it, she was like, well, you can't expect me to do my job. That's not fair. It's like, whatever you got to tell yourself, ma'am. Like, I just know this guy shouldn't pay $1 million yet. Not yet. He will later when he does the thing with the things, but.
Well, not even, but yeah, it was, yeah. We got lots of those stories.
I bet. It's wild world. It's wild. Well, Holly, thanks for hanging out and telling stories and talking nerdy tax stuff. Nobody can do it like we do it on the show. Like, people think sales taxes and bookkeeping stuff is boring. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be boring.
It's not ever boring, to be honest.
No, there's always tons of fun, tons of stories, and just helping people. You guys go to salestaxlady.com. Check out Holly's website. If you need to get a hold of her, send her an email at holly@salestaxlady.com. Thanks, Holly. That was super fun. Go Pack. Sorry we're out of the playoffs. There's always next year. We'll be back. We'll be back next year. Maybe healthy. But I appreciate you hanging out. I gotta go. I was joking about a fish house earlier. I did get a new fish house, and I got a buddy flying in with his kiddo, and we got, like, I think we have 4 dads and 11 kids. And so I got to go make some tacos. I got to go make some venison breakfast sausage stuff. I got to go do some cooking here before the night's over. I got work to do. So thanks for hanging out and hanging in there. Business nerds, you guys know what to do. Work smarter and harder. Go earn some pride. We'll see you next week.